Hello again, welcome back to the Fallacious Truth. Here's just a quick recap of the previous videos of this How to Protect Yourself During a Divorce If You're a Man series. Our first video was an overview of what we aimed to cover in this series. The second video is regarding the first hurdle that you need to conquer during your divorce as a man, and this is the self-preservation hurdle. The third video, with regards to a man in divorce, is how to deal with your soon-to-be ex and methods to protect yourself and your children, if you have them both inside and outside of your home. This video here today, we're on video number 4, hurdle 3, which is what you as men need to start planning and doing to help secure your financial stability during this time. Divorce is a very expensive endeavor, but ultimately it's cheaper than remaining married to someone who steps out on you and views you as nothing but a bank. As a man, chances are you are the breadwinner of your family, and as such you are out of the home on a daily basis providing for your family. Women love to call taking care of the children hard and arduous, but in actuality, taking care of children is quite easy. It may be time-consuming and tiring at times, but compared to you, a man working a full-time job with the weight of the world on your shoulders to provide for yourself and your family, the two simply can't be compared. As the provider, the ultimate responsibility falls on you to take care of your family, not your wife or not your significant other. While you, as a man, are proud to take on this greatest of responsibilities and will quite literally in some cases work yourself to the bone in physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. Your working like this is one of a man's worst kryptonites in a divorce. There are several kryptonites, some more insignificant than others, but this one is perhaps the greatest in terms of its impact on you and your ability to take care of yourself and your children going forward if you have children. If you are fortunate enough to be able to plan your divorce, preferably at least a year and a half to 2 years prior, do it. Time is precious to you here. Time is your ticket to a much better outcome. Or if you're like most men out there, you don't have a year or 2 years to plan anything, especially to strategize. Chances are this was sprung on you out of the blue and now you are playing catch up to where she is. Brother, your battle is much, much harder, but the principle is still the same. You just have a significantly lesser amount of time to accomplish it. Your one ray of hope, your one light in this room of darkness, is it will take time from her initial mentions of a divorce until the actual divorce is completed. This time must be managed perfectly and is critical to you not losing what you hold most precious to you. You need to remember this. The more you make, the more she takes. Alright, so we've already established you most likely are the breadwinner of your home. And as such, for some fucked up reason, the state somehow came to the illogical conclusion that we, as hardworking men, are responsible for taking care of our soon-to-be ex after we have divorced her because she stepped out on us, is an abusive woman, etc., etc. Can anybody explain the logic of that to me on here? Maybe leave a comment about it. Remember, folks, women only adhere to equality when equality benefits them. That's just what it is, plain and simple. And the proof of it is in the system here. Especially today, here in the year 2022. Anyhow, we are forced under threat of imprisonment to pay for our ex once we are no longer together. Unless you can somehow get an ironclad prenup that prevents you from making slave payments to your ex. You're gonna be on the hook in some way, shape, or form for some money. Just get that through your head and get used to the idea. Now, what you need to do to lessen the amount paid? Well, quite honestly, there isn't a whole lot you can do. And that's the long and the short of it. I mean, there are things you can do of questionable legality, but if you're found out, you're going to be screwed. So I'm really not going to talk about them here, but just know that they do exist. And do not get caught. Now, I mean, if you want, you could try to take a lesser paying job as soon as she springs this divorce on you. Now, I can almost guarantee you that they're going to nail you for it as soon as they see you trying to find a lesser paying job. So doing that, especially right then and there, once she springs it on you, it's really not the best idea because they're still going to force you to pay the same amount in slave payments as you made at your old job even with the lesser amount of adjusted income. This is why you always need to be paying attention. This is why you always need to be vigilant, especially if you're married. As soon as you start to see things go rocky, as soon as you start to see her step out on you, large changes in attitude, etc., know that something is most likely coming down the pike. Right then and there, I would start looking for a lesser paying job. And because divorce doesn't happen overnight, it may be long enough to establish a new status quo. Perhaps if you can here, when and if this does happen, maybe you can talk to your boss. Tell him that the stresses you're currently undergoing, maybe your mental health is taking quite a hit from this. Anything that you can make up that's true, I'm not saying to lie, because there's a lot of negative things that are going to happen to you physically and emotionally because of this. So regardless of how you want to go about it, you need to create, like I said, a new status quo. And depending on the state, it can take a minimum of 6 months in the eyes of the court, and it can be much longer in other places too. What's ideal is if you're able to plan this, because you're able to talk to your boss months, if not over a year, prior to even getting this started. You can work on reducing your hours and setting the new status quo. It's unconscionable that you, as a man, are forced to make slave payments to your ex, especially after she steps out on you when you're married. Like I said earlier, it's interesting that women are so interested about equality. The problem is they're only interested when the equality benefits them. Equality here clearly doesn't benefit her, so she is 99.99999% of the time more than willing to choose to be the damsel in distress here, so you have to pay her. Now, before I say this next part, I need to preface it by saying that I know times are tough financially, especially when this is randomly sprung on you with no prior inkling, not even a thought prior. You made the worst mistake possible. You believed in the Disney fairy tale marriage that we as consumers have been sold since the 40s. I'm sorry to inform you, but as a whole, my friend, it does not exist, at least not anymore. As I was saying, I know things can be financially hard, but if you are able to, at all possible, prior to your marriage, you need to be saving. And that savings prior to your marriage, it needs to be put in a separate account with just your name on it. Do not intermingle those funds with an account that has both of your names on it. It will then be considered marital assets, regardless of when the funds were obtained. And when you are married, I'm not going to suggest what you should or shouldn't do with your finances. What I will say is you need to save and have your little stash set aside. There is no possible way for me to emphasize this more than what I currently am. You need to have some savings set aside in a stash, as it were, known and only accessed by you. Let me say it again. It is to be known by no one else but you and you alone. This is crucial. Now, you need to be mindful about what you do with this money, what it is and what it isn't for. This money is not money that you put into the market. You can't take the chance that you lose it. This isn't investment money. This is money saved for an emergency only. And 9 chances out of 10, this emergency is going to be the crisis that affects you for the entirety of your life. And that emergency is a divorce. I mean, quite honestly, I wouldn't get married at all. The stakes are simply too high. Imagine if this were a business contract, and the contract says this. Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around up until this point here. I was going to continue on with all of the information, including the analogy that's going to be coming up next, in just one video, but it ended up being far too long. It would have ended up being around 25, maybe even 30 minutes. And for some people, that's just too long of a time to really keep their attention, and it really could help somebody out there if they choose it to. So thank you for listening. I'll have part 2 where the analogy is out, and I'd say less than 12 hours here. It's already recorded. I just need to put it to the rest of the video here. As I said, I didn't want to make this one too long, just for attention purposes. So anyhow, once again, thank you for sticking around. I'd really appreciate it if you could like, share, and subscribe. And I'll have the second part of this out soon. Thank you once again, and take care.